you doing, Nellie? Are you done being a silly girl? You were a silly girl all morning. Yeah. Running around with the zoomies, weren't ya? Yes, you were. Now you're tired, huh? Taking a break from all that zooming? Yeah, we all need a break from the zooming once in a while. Yes, we do. Oh, you're a pretty girl. Look at those whiskers. I love you, baby girl.
Hi everybody, welcome to another coffee chat. Here is the mug that I'm using right now. It says Coffee, Teach, Sleep, Repeat, which is kind of the story of my life lately. Last week time kind of got away from me, so I didn't get around to recording a coffee chat. So I apologize to the maybe a handful of you who are looking forward to it or who were looking forward to a glimpse of Nellie. But I'm back on track now, getting caught up with things, and am here to talk to you about something I heard this week that I thought was a really interesting metaphor for life. And as I ponder it, it helps me understand myself a little better, and I hope it'll do the same for you. So I want to share an idea with you. It was a metaphor about how when we experience some kind of trauma, it leaves a hollow in us, it leaves an opening, and that opening can fill up with something, right? Something's going to flood in to fill it up. So let me show you a picture of a lump of clay on a potter's wheel and explain this a little further. So the way this was explained to me was that imagine that your life is a lump of clay and something happens that traumatizes it, right? It gets poked at, it gets smushed, something happens, right? There's a trauma, and that trauma leaves an indentation in it, and that indentation is going to be inclined to fill up with something. Okay, so if you look at the picture here, the idea is that when clay gets hollowed out, it becomes a vessel, and when we experience trauma of some kind, when we experience a disappointment, a hurt, we become vessels too. That thing that pokes into us leaves a hollow place that could be filled with something. So the question is, what is it that fills up that vessel? Okay? And it could be fear that comes flooding in. It could be anger that comes flooding in. It could be that we seek support from those around us, and that support floods in and fills that vessel, fills that hole, fills that empty place in the shape of us. And I find this really useful because I've been thinking about what fills my vessel. And if I'm angry, for example, if I feel filled with anger, it's useful to take a second and stop and say, okay, who hurt me? Like, what happened that caused damage that I am filling up with anger? Why am I not feeling whole? What caused that empty space that I'm filling with anger? And what else can I fill it with, right? Is there something else I can fill it with? Can I fill it up with grace and compassion toward myself? Can I fill it up with reaching out to somebody and asking them to contribute something that is going to soothe over the painful places? So that's one metaphor. I'm going to share another one with you. And that is the idea of throwing a rock into a lake. This is another metaphor that has to do with filling up empty spaces. I was watching a TV show where these two women were walking next to a lake, a pond, a small body of water. And one of the women was really angry about something, and the other woman said, well, you just got to cast that anger away from you like this. And she picked up a rock and she threw it in the lake. And she said to her friend, see, the surface of the lake, it ripples and churns, but then the rock disappears. And the angry friend said, yes, but it's still down there. And it's now forever a part of the lake, and the lake is forever changed by it. And even though nobody else can see it, you and I know it's down there. And I thought that was another really interesting metaphor for life and how we deal with difficult times. When something happens to us, we have to absorb it into our new self, into our new being, right? And I think many of us have had experiences in life that kind of divide our life into a before and an after. We think of life was one way before this event happened, and then it was forever changed by this event, and now there's an after. For me, one of those events was the death of my mother in 2021. So it hasn't been that long. It's been 3 years since she passed away, but that was an event that kind of divided my life. And it's a rock that got thrown into the lake of my life that it's still down there, and I still have to deal with it every day, and we absorb it into our being, and we learn to work with it being there. And other people I encounter won't know that that's there unless I tell them, as I am telling you. And we're all going to perceive that differently too, because we all have different relationships with our mothers. So losing someone might affect someone differently than it does me. But this idea that we have to incorporate the hurt into our new persona, and we can do that in a number of different ways, right? Going back to the potter's wheel analogy, we can incorporate it into ourselves with resentment, with hurt, with anger, with a feeling that life is unfair and this shouldn't have happened to me. Or we can learn to incorporate it into our lives in a way that helps us to be more compassionate toward ourselves and toward others. We can give ourselves the grace to take the time we need to understand it better and to work through it, and to extend that grace toward other people. So as you go through your week, and if something negative happens to you, I'd really encourage you to come back to these ideas to help you process those negative experiences. This idea of when the pottery gets traumatized by getting poked into, something's going to fill that hole. What's it going to be? Or this idea of a rock being thrown in a lake, and even after the water settles, now the rock is still down there and is forever a part of the lake. So how do we deal with these permanent changes to our lives, to our personas, and do we deal with them in a way that puts more positivity and goodness into our own lives and into the lives of others? Or do we deal with it by lashing out and becoming angry? And we're allowed to be angry. I just hope anger is not where we end up. I hope it is maybe one step along the journey toward better understanding ourselves and others. Have a wonderful week. I'm thinking of you, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye.